Some of my earliest memories was being in the hospital in traction because my mom's boyfriend had pushed me out of the high chair onto the kitchen floor, which snapped my leg. He later kidnapped my sister, abused her, and she had his child at the age of 13. They took my oldest brother and sister and put them in foster care, and my other sister and I went to go live with my father. I can remember my mom saying that she would come visit us and she wouldn't call, she wouldn't show up, no reason why. And even when she did come, it wasn't good. My mom had remarried a Hells Angels biker that had an alcohol problem, and my mom screaming as he's got her by the hair, pulled over the couch and he's beating her over the head with a beer bottle. I started seeking attention from a lot of the wrong crowds, and 12, 13, I started getting into drugs and alcohol and smoking cigarettes. And my first quarter of my freshman year, I was expelled from high school for selling drugs on my lunch break. My father tried to control me, but I was uncontrollable. I went to go live with my mom in some of the worst neighborhoods in the Bay Area of California. Methamphetamines, cocaine, and I started getting involved in gangs. My brother came to live with us for a short period of time until one day I got the news that a tragic accident had happened and he passed away. I got deeper involved in the drugs and gangs and stuff like that, and I ended up fleeing for my life. I ended up living with friends, and I ended up getting a girl pregnant at the age of 17. The whole Fast and the Furious scene was becoming very popular, and so I started racing cars and motorcycles, many times under the influence. At this point, I was an auto mechanic, and I was living on my own and met my wife. Her car had broken down. And I remember telling her the week that I met her that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with her. Less than a year later, we got married. And as time went on, we had a couple children and things were not going good. We'd fight all the time. I was still into drugs and alcohol, and we both had our own issues. And people were witnessing to us, telling us that we needed Jesus in our lives in order to make our marriage work. And my in-laws would witness to me saying the same thing, and I would reject it until a breaking point happened. I remember sitting outside our duplex, and I was bleeding because I got in a fight with my brother-in-law because I was fighting with my wife, and I was drunk, and I was watching my wife push my son in his bassinet down the street to my in-laws' house. He was only a couple months old, and the police are there, and I'm thinking, that's it. How did I get here? All I wanted was a family. My oldest brother-in-law had invited me to a men's discipleship class in San Francisco, and I agreed to go with him. And I listened to the preacher say that Jesus had died on the cross for the forgiveness of my sins, and that he rose again so I could have an eternal life, and that God wanted me to be a part of his family. The opportunity came to pray, and I remember just bowing my head and talking to God and telling him, I don't know if you're real, and I don't know why I've lived the life that I've lived and how I got to this point. God made himself known to me that day. I began to read the Bible and began to seek God and pray to him, and I wanted to know God, and he began to restore my thinking, and he began to restore my marriage, and we began going to church, and we had 2 more children. And I have a godly wife, and I have godly children now. And I know that God has a plan and a purpose for my life. Psalm 68:6 says, God places the lonely in families. He sets the prisoners free and gives them joy. My name is Glenn Reed, and this is my testimony.